Picture this. You're sitting in a quiet room. Nothing is wrong. You're safe. You're comfortable. And yet, something feels off. There's a strange uneasiness, a feeling that's hard to explain, as if your brain is waiting for something to happen. Here's the surprising part. That feeling isn't weakness. It isn't anxiety. It isn't you being dramatic. It's your brain doing exactly what it was designed to do, because your brain was never designed to be alone. Now think about this. Human beings have built cities, invented computers, landed on the moon, and connected billions of people through technology. And yet loneliness is rising everywhere. Why? Why would a brain powerful enough to build civilization struggle with something as simple as sitting alone in a room? Why do people in solitary confinement begin to mentally deteriorate after only a short period of time? Why do some people start talking to themselves after prolonged isolation? And what is your brain actually afraid of? Because it's not the silence. It's not the darkness. It's something much older than that. Something buried deep inside every human being. To understand it, we have to travel back 50,000 years. Imagine you're an ancient human waking up one morning and realizing your tribe is gone. Maybe they moved camp. Maybe you got lost. It doesn't matter. Because one thing suddenly becomes true: you're alone. And 50,000 years ago, being alone often meant death. No one to watch for predators, no one to share food, no one to protect you while you slept. For ancient humans, loneliness wasn't an emotion. It was a survival emergency, and your brain never forgot that. Even today, that ancient survival system is still running quietly in the background. It doesn't know you're sitting safely inside an apartment. It doesn't know food is one click away. It only recognizes one thing: isolation. And when it detects isolation, it activates alarms that have existed for thousands of generations. That's why loneliness can affect your sleep. That's why it can increase stress. That's why it can even change the way you see other people. Your brain isn't malfunctioning. It's following ancient instructions. But here's where it gets truly unsettling, because scientists have actually measured what loneliness does to a human body. And the numbers are hard to ignore. Loneliness is as physically dangerous to your health as smoking 15 cigarettes a day. Not emotionally dangerous, physically dangerous. Researchers looked at data from over 300,000 people across 148 different studies. And what they found was that social isolation increases your risk of early death by 26%. That's not a rounding error. That's not a statistical footnote. That's a slow, quiet catastrophe that almost no one is talking about. But why does being alone hurt your body? Not just your mood, your actual body. Because your brain treats social pain exactly the same way it treats physical pain. A researcher named Naomi Eisenberger at UCLA ran an experiment. She had participants play a simple virtual ball-tossing game with two other players. Partway through, the other players stopped throwing the ball to the participant. They were being left out, socially excluded. In a completely fake game with completely fake players, the brain scans told the real story. The regions associated with physical pain lit up identically to when someone experiences actual physical injury. Your brain does not know the difference between a broken bone and being excluded from a conversation. To your nervous system, rejection is damage. Social pain is real pain. And there's a third thing. Something even stranger. Lonely brains don't just feel differently. They see different. Studies show that people experiencing chronic loneliness have a heightened sense of threat. They read neutral faces as more hostile. They expect rejection even from complete strangers. Their brain is essentially stuck in permanent low-grade emergency mode, scanning for danger that isn't there. They're not paranoid. They're not broken. Their brain is doing exactly what a brain does when it genuinely believes survival is at stake. And this brings us to the part that changed how I think about people. There's a chemical called cortisol. You've probably heard of it. It's your stress hormone. And when your ancient brain detects isolation, it starts releasing it. In small doses, cortisol is useful. It sharpens your senses, keeps you alert, helps you react fast. But when loneliness becomes chronic, cortisol keeps flowing, day after day, week after week. And a body running on prolonged stress doesn't just feel tired, it starts to break down. Inflammation rises, the immune system weakens, sleep deteriorates. Your body is preparing for a threat that never comes. It's burning resources for a battle that isn't happening, because it still thinks you're on that savannah, alone, at night, with no one watching your back. Now let me tell you about something that happened in 1973. A psychologist was documenting what happened to prisoners placed in solitary confinement within 48 hours, not weeks, not months, 48 hours. Some prisoners began showing signs of acute psychosis, paranoid thoughts, visual disturbances, a complete breakdown in their sense of time. These weren't people with prior mental illness. These were ordinary people, placed alone. Today, the United Nations considers prolonged solitary confinement, more than 15 consecutive days, to be a form of torture. 15 days. That's how long it takes for isolation to qualify, legally and formally, as torture under international law. Your brain needs other people the way your lungs need oxygen. It's not a personality preference. It's not a sign of weakness. It is a biological requirement. So what's actually happening inside your brain when all of this unfolds? There's a network in your brain called the default mode network. It activates when you're not focused on any particular task. When you're daydreaming, when you're in the shower letting your mind wander, when you're staring out a window going nowhere in particular. Scientists used to think this was your brain going idle, like a screensaver kicking in. Then they looked more closely. The default mode network isn't resting. It's rehearsing. It's replaying conversations you've had, imagining future interactions, modeling what other people think, feel, and want. When your brain has absolutely nothing else to do, it thinks about people, not food, not shelter, not survival tasks. People. Your brain is, at its deepest level, a social simulation machine. Its default background process is modeling other mind, and at the center of this is a hormone called oxytocin. Most people know it as the bonding hormone, but that's a bit too simple. Oxytocin is more like a social calibration system. It gets released during eye contact, during physical touch, during shared laughter, during the small, quiet moments of genuine human presence. And when it's absent for too long, it triggers a stress response that rivals physical pain. There's also a concept researchers are now calling social homeostasis. Your body maintains balance constantly. It regulates your temperature, your blood sugar, your heart rate. And it turns out, it also regulates your social connection. When you go too long without meaningful human contact, your brain generates an aversive signal, a kind of hunger, a pullback toward other people. Loneliness, in this model, isn't a disorder. It isn't a flaw in your character. It's a hunger signal, just like the growl of an empty stomach. And here's the part that makes this genuinely heartbreaking. Just like prolonged starvation can distort a person's relationship with food, making them hoard, binge, or lose appetite entirely, prolonged loneliness can distort your relationship with people. It can make social situations feel more threatening than they are. It can make you more likely to misread someone's intentions, more likely to withdraw, more likely to push away the exact thing your brain is desperately craving. The longer the hunger, the harder it becomes to eat. And this is quietly happening to millions of people right now, not because they're broken, not because they failed at something, but because we built a world that looks more connected than it actually is. We have more ways to communicate than at any point in human history. More platforms, more notifications, more followers, subscribers, and contacts than our grandparents could have imagined, and we are lonelier than ever. Which brings me to the question I actually want to leave you with. Not a rhetorical one, a real one. What are we actually feeding our brains? Because there's a difference between connection and the appearance of connection. Real connection, the kind your brain is actually built for, comes from eye contact, from shared physical space, from the unpredictable, inefficient, beautiful mess of being truly present with another person. And very quietly, without most of us noticing, we've been swapping a lot of that out for something that looks similar on the surface, but doesn't quite reach the same places. It's like eating artificial sweetener and wondering why you're still hungry. That ancient brain, the one that woke up terrified on the savannah, the one that needed a tribe to survive, is still inside you right now. It still wakes up every single morning and asks the oldest question in human experience. Am I with my people? Am I safe? And if the answer it receives is silence, even comfortable silence, even voluntary silence, even Wi-Fi connected silence, it starts sounding alarm, not because something is wrong with you, because something is deeply, beautifully right with you. You are not designed for isolation. You are designed for each other. And maybe the most quietly radical thing any of us can do in a world built for distraction and distance is to actually let someone see us. Not the version we curate, not the version we post, but the real one. The one sitting alone in a quiet room, feeling something they can't quite explain. Think about that the next time the room gets a little too quiet.